Alrighty. Welcome, everyone, and good afternoon. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today as we discuss how to be a polite advocate and effectively become a champion for Texas 21. I am your host, Kathleen Bates. Before we begin, I'd like to draw your attention to the informational box at the bottom of your screen. Here you'll find information about CEUs and technical difficulties. So we do ask that as you encounter any technical difficulties to use the respective chat box at the bottom of your screen for further assistance. Also, please feel free to type any questions for our presenters in the chat box on the right side of your screen. Once the presentation has concluded, we will address those questions for you. So let's meet our presenters. Our first presenter this afternoon is Steve Ross. Steve is the statewide coalition specialist for Texans Standing Tall. In this role, he supports and trains all Texas tobacco prevention and control coalitions, which are funded by the Texas Department of State Health Services. Steve has more than 15 years of experience working for Texans Standing Tall, during which he has served as the communications director for 8 years and the coordinator for the Social Host Initiative for 2 years. Steve represents the statewide coalition through state-level committees by building and maintaining relationships with various partners and local coalitions. His background includes decades of experience in media and government relations, as well as building communications avenues with both private companies and public organizations. Additionally, his experience includes multimedia production with a focus on message development. Prior to returning to Texans Standing Tall, Steve was a communications specialist with the Texas Tobacco Prevention and Control Program. Our next presenter is youth advocate Kellen Crook. Kellen is a senior at Piney Woods Community Academy in Lufkin, Texas, where he's been involved in youth tobacco prevention and control throughout his high school career, focusing on Tobacco 21 policies at the local level. He is the captain of his varsity basketball team, a graduate of the Leadership Tomorrow program, a youth coalition member of his local Tobacco Prevention and Control Coalition, and a member of his local youth tobacco prevention group, Lufkin Drug-Free All-Stars. Currently, Kellen is a teen ambassador for the statewide youth coalition, Say What. Additionally, Kellen serves as a national youth ambassador and a Texas 21 youth ambassador for the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. Kellen would like to pursue a degree in political science in order to serve as a campaign advisor or lobbyist in his future career endeavors. All right, at this time, I will pass it off to you, Steve.
Kathleen, Kathleen, I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words, and thanks to everyone who has joined us today for this webinar. It's about advocacy, but I think it's also about the power of youth in advocating for causes and for changes that will help create healthier and safer communities. So let's get into it. And again, we'll have some question time at the end of the day. Advocacy. What does it mean? What are you talking about when you talk about advocacy? Well, the definition, Webster's, is the act or process of supporting a cause or a proposal. When looking at advocacy at the grassroots level, however, it can be slightly different. When we say speaks in favor of a cause, it means you have a principle or belief you want to see come true. It could be something as simple if you're in school advocating for better food at lunch during lunchtime at school. Or it could be creating a better and safer environment for people by making sure that youth are not available to tobacco products, such as the tobacco age law that we're going to talk about today. You argue for a cause. By that, we simply mean that you understand the facts and the reasons for the problem you are trying to help, and that you also then plead on others' behalf who may not have a voice in what you are trying to get changed. And you defend, vindicate, and uphold. You speak for those that have no voice. In other words, a lot of us talk about individual and environmental change. Individual change is when you do something to help one single person. For instance, if you were in a cold room, you might give somebody your jacket to help them warm. An environmental change is you change the room for everyone by making the temperature go up. Well, an environmental change is what advocates are mostly about, changing the social norm, changing how your community looks at a problem, and then changing the way you can approach that problem to make it better. What are the core components of advocacy? When we talk about the value of a cause, we mean you focus on the positive impact or the benefits your cause and change could make to the public. Creating a safer and healthier community by making alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs irrelevant in the lives of youth is what we try to do at Texans Standing Tall. That's the value of the cause, creating safer and healthier communities. How do you do that when you're being an advocate? You know the facts, understanding the issue, and know that you, in a lot of cases, when you're talking with someone about the problem, are going to be the expert because you're going to know more than the decision maker or the group you're speaking to about whatever cause or problem you are trying to correct. And so feel confident if you know the facts. Using the facts, and we're going to talk about this quite a bit today, you don't overwhelm with facts. You select a few key points that are most important to the foundation of your cause. The key facts on why Texas 21 should happen. We'll talk about that in a little while. And you collaborate. There's always been an old saying, there's strength in numbers. And that's true when you're advocating for change. Your cause has a better chance to succeed if it is a joint effort. You build up a network of allies who share the same goals. They may not want them for the same reasons you do, but they do want the same goals. I'll give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. A few years ago, Texans Standing Tall was advocating for what they call keg registration, which would put a number on kegs of alcohol. So if youth were using them, they could find out who was the person who supplied the alcohol. We got it to the legislature. Unfortunately, it didn't pass, but the legislator who supported it, wrote the bill and put it out, was interested because he had been flooded with complaints of people in his district who were finding lots of trash and empty kegs in his farmland. They were using it for pasture parties. So he came from a standpoint of trying to control trash and keeping his clients happy. We, of course, were coming from the standpoint of it was a healthy, safer thing to do. You must have a key message. We also believe in the 3 C's when you talk about key messages. Be clear, be concise, and be coherent. You need to be direct, to the point, avoid using jargon or acronyms, and you need to be able to tell people what you're interested in and why it's important in less than a minute. We always talk about being polite because it's important to respect the time of those you are trying to reach. And no matter what they say, yes, no, or maybe, you need to thank them for giving you the opportunity to speak for your cause. Levels of advocacy. Well, let's talk about peers first. And I believe that the Say What organization is a perfect example of what I'm trying to talk about here. Whatever is a concern of yours, whether it be access to alcohol or tobacco or other drugs, if it's a concern of yours, it's more than likely a concern of others in your peer group. You can begin there to hone your advocacy skills. And Say What gives an opportunity for youth across the state to do exactly that, to identify other peers who feel the same way they do, and to hone their skills to be able to articulate the solutions to the problems. Collaboration, as I said, is a key tool in advocacy. And I have seen in the past tobacco prevention and cessation coalitions, when adults and youth work together, you can get great results. And how do you do that? Well, it's important to build a mutual respect among youth and adults. It will always strengthen your position. And the first thing that needs to happen is that means you are seen as co-equals with adults. Youth are not just there to kind of stand and hold some charts, but to be an active part, co-equals with adults, ready for the responsibility of advocacy. And I've seen tobacco coalitions in the past who have collaborated with youth do some great things, especially in terms of passing ordinances. Local decision makers. The decision makers are the people who can help you shape and influence the public policy and put into place the environmental strategies you support. They could include, but not limited to, city council members, the school board, PTA, local service organizations, neighborhood associations, boys and girls clubs. No matter what they are, they're people that can help you reach the goals you have. State officials. We are currently in the legislative session, and youth advocates can play an important role in shaping statewide change. It could be testifying before a committee. It could be coming and meeting with your local statewide representative one-on-one to express your beliefs. You can be an instrument for change, and Advocacy Day, that we'll promote a little bit later on for Texans Standing Tall in February 19th, is a great example of doing just that. Preparation. Always important in athletics, academics, and advocacy. Due diligence. What do we mean by due diligence? Well, we really mean simply doing your homework. Understanding the problem, understanding the solution that you believe can help alleviate that problem. That is doing your due diligence. Know your decision makers, your target audience. Who can help you get the change you desire? What can they do to help you solve the problem? And then you need to know why they should help to be able to express that to them. We talked about having the facts, but you have to be a storyteller as well. Facts are statistics, and they're cold and can be seen, but when you have a story to go with them that puts it into context, that gives it some real meaning, it's much more important to be able to give the facts with a story. I used to be in sports broadcasting, and that's really what we're talking about. We used to love to have statistics about games, but they didn't mean anything unless they told the story. Who made the great play at the end of the game to win it? Who fumbled the ball away to cost the game? Those are statistics, but when you tell them in a story, they become much more meaningful. Follow up. You always follow up when after a meeting with anyone because it's just being polite. Maybe they have a question they wanted to ask and you didn't have the answer. You follow up with that. You simply follow up to thank them again for seeing you and follow up to tell them you're more than willing to be available to any other time for another meeting. And you always say thank you on a response on a question. So go over this again. You communicate the problem. It has to have a local story. It has to be important to the people you're talking to, which explains why they should care. And when I say what's in it for them, that's not a bad thing. When you work with other people that you are trying to get to help you do your change and your cause, there has to be a return on their investment. And that's why they should care. And that's why you should also be ready to answer that, should be talking with someone. And the best way to get advocacy working is to educate policymakers, media, and the general public on your issue. Sometimes the order is important. Perhaps on a local level, if say you're trying to get a smoke-free ordinance, perhaps getting the general public your information is more important. So you use the media. You use social media or your local media to make sure the general public understands the issue. Because if the general public understands the issue, they can tell the policymakers who can make the changes. And the policymakers will listen to the general public, especially if they're voters. So, what kind of advocate are you? When I talk about what kind of advocate you are, it's important to understand that not everybody has to be the storyteller, the person who's the direct contact with the decision maker. Advocates come in all shapes. They are people who do the fact finding. If you feel comfortable doing the research, maybe you're more comfortable doing the art for signs that are going to be used at a demonstration. Maybe you're more comfortable writing the one pager that most people will use when they meet with other people. The advocacy is wide open to any kind of talent you have. It's important to understand that you are valuable in whatever you can do to help advocate.
Advocacy, advocate. That word probably conjures up images of Capitol buildings, courtrooms, and politicians. But what does it really mean to be an advocate? Advocate. A person who publicly supports or recommends a particular cause or policy.
Being an advocate means you stand and represent something that you truly believe in. As the advocate, you spread the truth, you educate others.
It's believing in something that's not completely dependent on yourself. It's something that you truly believe in and that you truly wanted to make a stand on.
Pretty simple concept, right? Who can advocate? Anyone. You can. It's probably going on all around you, even at your school. Think about your class president elections. Imagine one of the candidates runs on a platform advocating for the cafeteria to offer pizza at lunch every day. A vote for me is a vote for pizza. Now think about that same candidate advocating for a district-wide policy ensuring recycling at all schools. That is something that can benefit everyone, because it's a cause trying to promote healthy lifestyles and a healthy environment. This is an important distinction when trying to find an issue to be a champion for, because an advocate looks for something that addresses the change they would like to see in their school, community, and state. The point is, you can advocate for anything, as long as it's something you have a passion for and truly believe in.
Well, it all started in 8th grade when I attended my first Say What conference here in Texas and saw that on a presentation it said that tobacco was the #1 most preventable cause of death in the United States. And that really struck a nerve with me because I'm a people person, and seeing that tobacco could eventually kill them in the long run and give other people diseases from secondhand smoke really hurt me, because that was them doing bad to themselves and not good. Where I've been working, I work as a checker, as a cashier, and I regularly check people's groceries, get them to the line, and where I work, they continuously sell tobacco products. And so I went to my managers and I said, hey, I'm not a big fan of tobacco use, and I was just wondering if I could stop selling tobacco in my line and just send them to another line. And their response was that would discourage sales, and that with that discouragement of sales, they would lose product value in it, and that it would discourage people from buying it. These tobacco products do kill people, and they are proven to have different diseases that can be caused from them. And businesses are taking that for granted and just saying, oh, this is like a cash cow, let me get this money from this product, and not look at the human health decisions. When I heard that, it really kind of lit a fire. It was like I play basketball, and the first thing that we do before we run out is we have a song that really gets us going. And that statement that I heard from my manager really made me get pumped up for being an advocate for this, because it was something that was just totally out of the blue. I didn't see it coming, and then when I heard it, it was just, wow, they actually said that. This is kind of a big problem, and then just getting stirred up and ready to go, just to go advocate.
So, how do you get involved? Think of advocacy in terms of 3 different levels: education, engagement, and policy work. Educate yourself, engage with the community, policy advocacy. Education level. An advocate is a credible source of information. Someone wouldn't recommend a movie they hadn't seen, so an advocate doesn't support an issue or policy they haven't educated themselves about. Knowledge is the foundation of effective advocacy, and it's important to keep current with information like opinions, research, and trending topics related to the cause. An advocate must learn all of this to effectively communicate with the people around them. Engagement level. The next level of advocacy is all about educating and engaging with the community. A community is more than just where someone lives. It's full of friends, family members, and neighbors who are key to helping an advocate create change. Hosting rallies and marches, collecting signatures for a petition, sharing personal stories with elected officials and community members, and meeting and working with local media are all examples of how an advocate engages with the community to ensure their voice is heard. Policy level. As an advocate, the ultimate goal is policy work. Policies create and shape our laws, which allows an advocate to have a hand in changing his or her community for the better.
I decided my sophomore year that I wanted to start a smoke-free ordinance in my hometown, Ingleside. I proposed the smoke-free ordinance on December 2016 in front of my city council members, and they did not take my group or myself seriously because we were young, and it made me feel like our voices didn't matter. And so that only ignited the fire within myself even more to continue pushing forward with the ordinance. Through that, we done petitions, we did rallies, marches, walks. We went out into the community to really get the public's opinion on the ordinance. We had a lot of backlash, we had a lot of opposition. There was bar owners who were very upset. We had half of the city council members who did not support the ordinance. But as young people, we didn't let that stop us. And by going door to door, we were able to put the ordinance on the agenda for the city council members to vote on. They quote unquote said that you are the future leaders, but that's not the truth. The truth is we are today's leaders. As young advocates, we are trying to make change happen today. Our opinions, our voices, they truly matter when it comes to policy issues. Pushing forward with the smoke-free ordinance, my main goal was to protect people. My main goal was to make sure that anyone who didn't smoke was protected from the dangerous effects of secondhand smoke.
So now that you know what it takes to be an effective advocate, your voice is ready to be heard.
Well, to be an effective advocate, you just don't give up, you show up, but most importantly, you use the one thing that you have most, and that's your passion. You show others why you're so passionate about what you believe in. Your passion is what changes other people's thoughts. It changes their perspective, their opinions on your views.
One tip that I would give is to always be persistent, because no matter if they say no, you're always looking for a yes.
An advocate doesn't give up when they believe in something. You have to be persistent. You have to believe that what you're representing and what you want to do, you can do it.
Well, that's terrific. And what I really loved about that, being a polite advocate, it explains that being polite doesn't mean you can't be persistent and you can't be dedicated to your cause, and you can keep pushing until you get what you are looking for. Those two young men were a great example of what polite advocacy can look like. And we'll talk to one of them in a little while, as a matter of fact. So, key questions for a polite advocate. Who are you? Well, being a polite advocate is a little bit like being a salesperson. When you talk to decision makers, you are selling your cause. You are selling your solution to the problem. It might be the strategy that will help solve the problem, such as the Tobacco 21 law we're talking about today. Now, you can expect any person or group of people you reach out to have these two questions. As I said, who are you? Who do you represent? And what do you want? And also, they're going to want to know, why should I care? In other words, the return on investment. Now, if you're talking to, say, state legislators or your city council, it could be, will this cost me votes or will it get me votes? It could also be, will what you want to have happen cost the money or make money for the city? So it's all part of the natural process. Everybody will want to have a return on investment if you're asking them to work toward your strategy and your solution. It's just part of how it works. Who are you and why should I care? Do you have a vision and mission? And we could spend 3 hours, we'd have a training for over 3 hours about all of this, but I'll simply say here your vision is your overarching goal, making alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs irrelevant in the lives of youth. Your specific mission on this is how you accomplish that vision or part of that vision. Well, you can do it through limiting tobacco access with an age 21 law. So simply then, do you know your vision and mission? Can you say it really in a short period of time, as less as 10 to 30 seconds? And is it meaningful? And what does that mean? Again, it goes back to return on investment. It's meaningful to you. Is it meaningful to the person you're talking to? Are they going to see a benefit from having done what you asked them to do? Whoops, I'm going to go back one more. I'm sorry. I was too quick on the trigger there. Polite advocate. I'm going to read mine for you. My name is Steve Ross. I am the Tobacco Coalition Specialist for Texans Standing Tall. We work to prevent youth from having access to tobacco products through education and environmental strategies. We also offer cessation strategies for those who are using tobacco products and wish to quit. I want to talk to you today about how you can help us through advocacy reach those goals. And I ask that you use the information you learn today to help you become effective advocates for youth tobacco prevention. The ask, by the way, can be as little as, can we meet again to talk about this? Would you come to speak to our group? Could we have your support for the ordinance? Whatever. The ask is big or small, but there should always, always be an ask. So the polite youth advocate. Well, we saw a couple on the video, and again, I'd like to reintroduce. I won't go through the whole thing, Kellen, but again, Kellen Kruk is a senior at Pine Woods Community Academy in Lufkin, where he's involved in youth tobacco prevention for a very long time in his high school. He's playing captain of the basketball team, and we appreciate him coming right straight from basketball practice to help talk to us about this. And Kellen, before you get into what exactly you want to talk about, I would like to ask you the question, because we saw you as a very effective advocate in the video. How about the first time after going through some training that you decided to try to be a polite advocate? Do you remember what it was like, and did you learn anything from that experience that helped you do it a little bit smoother?
So my first time being a polite advocate was actually in Washington, D.C., when I went to go meet with Ted Cruz and his staff members. And I'm not going to say that the meeting went great, because his staff member wasn't that accepting of what we were talking about, but I did learn a lot from it. I learned that some members of Congress won't always support what you are presenting, but it's always good to tell them about it so that they can start thinking a little bit more about becoming more of a yes than a no on a future vote. And I also learned that I learned more about bridging in that conversation with the staff member, because he would bridge the conversation off of what I was trying to talk about, and I learned how to bring it back onto topic.
That's a great point, Kellen. That really is, because a lot of times you'll see adults or other people you're working with think they can do that, and if you handle it, then that is a tremendous topic or tremendous tip there. And before we go into some tips, I know there are some other things that you want to talk about, and I want to give you the floor right now to give your own polite advocate.
Yeah, so I wanted to give what I kind of say whenever I go advocate into the community and to my elected officials. My name is Kellen Crook. I am 18 years old and am a senior at Piney Woods Community Academy in Lufkin, Texas. I'm here on behalf of the Angelina County Drug-Free All-Stars. I'm here today to talk about Tobacco 21. Tobacco 21, or House Bill 749 or Senate Bill 338, would raise the sale age of tobacco from 18 to 21 years old. This would effectively take tobacco products out of the hands of high schoolers. For example, I come from a small 3A high school in Lufkin, and I will be graduating with 54 other people. If I could predict the number of classmates that use tobacco products, I'd say it was about around the number of 50% and maybe more. As you may know, underclassmen look up to the seniors and they see them as the cool kids. So when they see the seniors using tobacco products, they feel the urge to use the products, whether it's illegal or not. This is the biggest influential problem that we have in high schools across the state of Texas and in the United States. What I would like to ask of you today is for you to vote yes on House Bill 749 or Senate Bill 338. This would greatly improve the quality of life for high schoolers in Texas and decrease the amount of people who become addicted to this deadly product. Thank you, and thank you for listening to what I have to say.
Thank you, Kellen. That was great. That was great. Is there anything else you want before we go on? I know we're going to speak to you a little bit later about Tobacco 21, but I want to give you a chance to say anything else before we move on, if you do.
No, I think that's it.
Good. It was plenty. Very good. Do we have anybody out there who might have done case statements in the past like this, a polite advocate? You might want to type in and we can talk about that when we get to questions. And so please, if you have some experiences, we'd love to hear them. I do want to go over some quick tips again. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. I talked about how you're going to be the expert, but there are going to be things maybe you weren't ready to answer. And if the person asks you a question, please understand you can simply say, I'm sorry, I don't know, but I will find out and get back to you as soon as I can and get a specific time to get back. Be flexible. Maybe you thought you were going to have 5 minutes and they've got 2. And so you're going to have to kind of cut down what you want to try to say. Maybe they're going to ask you, do you mind if I walk with you and you walk with me as I go somewhere else? Be flexible and ready to go with the flow. Learn from your experiences. I think Kellen certainly did, and it's a great learning opportunity. Be polite and be brief. That always works. At the meeting, again, I just want to kind of go over this really quickly. Be organized, and by that, you may mean to have a one-pager of notes or a one-pager of facts that you can hand out. Be on point. That means don't try to cover everything about the problem solution. Focus on 1 or 2 major aspects and concentrate on those. Be authentic. Speak from the heart. You're invested in this subject. Let that show through. If it's a personal story, that's fine. If it isn't, be sure that it's something that you truly believe in. Be honest. You don't have to embellish. Just let the story and the facts play out. And again, be open to questions. And that means, again, saying, I don't know if you're not sure of the answer. Just assure them that you will find out and get back to them. And again, say thank you. Other tips you might want to talk about or think about afterwards, write a note or an email to again thank them for taking the time, provide any of the follow-up information, affirm the relationship. And I really cannot concentrate enough on this. Advocacy and getting change is built on relationships. You build trust and credibility, and you can move mountains when you have that. Perhaps place a phone call to follow up, not to ask for anything, but to say if there's anything you can do for them. And did I mention? Always say thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the specifics we are talking about today, which is the Tobacco 21 laws. Kellen mentioned the bill numbers, and we'll get back to that in a little while. They are identical word for word, and they both prohibit the sale, purchase, possession, or consumption of tobacco products for minors under the age of 21. The fine, it's a Class C misdemeanor, and the fine is up to $500. It would cover all tobacco products, including the acronym for ENDS, electronic nicotine delivery systems. That's e-cigarettes. I'm sure most of you know about Juul, the e-cigarette that looks like a USB port that has taken over the market. They will include these. So, what's the potential impact of this law? 95% of smokers begin before the age of 21. And those who begin earlier, from the age of 18 to 21, transition from experimentation to regular use at a higher rate. Delaying the age when young people first begin using tobacco will reduce the risk that they become addicted smokers. As Kellen pointed out, it keeps tobacco out of high school, because 18-year-olds are still in high school, can be a role model, and it will reduce the healthcare costs. The time is now. 70% of Texas voters support Tobacco 21. 7.4% of Texas high school youth do smoke. That's over 118,000 Texas youth. And more than 65,000 Texas youth will try smoking for the first time every year. 10,400 young Texans become regular smokers every year. And nearly 500,000 of Texas youth who will smoke will die prematurely if the current trends continue. What about e-cigarettes? This is the trend that is really disturbing. 25% of Texas high school students have tried the vape products, the ENDS products. Almost 9% use monthly. You may notice that is more than the youth who use regular cigarettes. And we might also add that those with ENDS are becoming dual users. They aren't just using the vape products. Some of them are also going to tobacco products.
I care for Tobacco 21 because even though you become 18 and you're legal, these 18-year-olds still go out in the community, buy these tobacco products, and peer pressure the kids that are even in high school to use those products. That is not okay. When it comes to Tobacco 21, it can make a big difference on a large scale. It could save so many lives, and that's the importance behind the law itself.
Tobacco 21 is important to me because right now I am 18 years old. I could buy tobacco products right now and it would be legal. And I'm from a small 3A school in Texas, not that big, and I can see tons of my senior class members. There's only 60 of us, and there's probably about 50% that use tobacco products because they are now legal to use it. And so it's important to pass this because Tobacco 21 would raise the age to 21 years old, and that would push the age limit out of high school and into college.
Youth and adults from all across the state of Texas are collaborating. They're working together, trying to engage their community members and educate them about the harmful effects of tobacco use. And they understand the importance of raising the purchase age from 18 to 21. To me, it's not just about keeping tobacco out of high school, but from what I've seen, this collaboration between youth and adults in my communities, they want to protect their friends, they want to protect their family members, but more importantly, they want to protect future Texas generations from dying prematurely.
Tobacco use is the #1 most preventable cause of death in the United States. And if it's so preventable, then why are we still letting these tobacco products get in the hands of those who are younger than 18? So we need to raise the age to purchase tobacco products to 21 because they will be less likely to ever pick up a tobacco product. That's the goal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing with us about what it is to be an advocate, what it means, how to be a polite advocate, and the different levels of advocacy. And we've heard a little bit about what Texas Tobacco 21 is. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to let Kellen speak a little bit about what Texas youth particularly are doing in the state on how they're being an advocate for Texas 21. And then afterwards, you'll get to see a few resources and opportunities for you yourself and your youth group to get involved.
Yes, so the Texas Tobacco 21 Youth Ambassadors is a coalition of youth and young adults in Texas working hard against tobacco. The coalition was created as a collaborative effort between Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and Say What to assist with community education and engagement about the importance of raising the sale age of tobacco. The goal of the coalition is to see Tobacco 21 get implemented in Texas and see Texas become the 7th state in the United States to raise the age. The role of a youth ambassador for the coalition is to go and speak to our state representatives. Also, the role of the ambassadors are also to create more public awareness and support for Tobacco 21 in our community. For example, in my community, I am currently gathering signatures at my school and at some public events to see the public signatures that will be in favor of Tobacco 21. And then coming up, I will be partnering with Say What to have an action summit in my hometown of Lufkin, Texas. And the focus will be the force will be to raise more awareness and support for Tobacco 21, which leads me to the Say What mini grant kits. If you would like to do something in your community about Tobacco 21, the Say What Tobacco 21 mini grant kit assists middle school and high school youth groups across the state of Texas while educating community members and local businesses about the importance of raising the legal tobacco sale age to 21. The kit is intended for youth groups to develop their message about why raising the age is important by using the Tobacco 21 tip sheets, and then to collectively wear the Tobacco 21 t-shirts and engage with fellow classmates, community members, and local businesses about Tobacco 21. Fellow classmates and community members who complete the supporter form can receive an I Support Tobacco 21 button. Businesses who complete the supporter form receive an I Support Raising the Age window cling to display in their window. The fact cards can be passed out to individuals and left behind at businesses the youth group visits. Once supporter forms have been completed, the youth group can mail them back to Say What so that they can submit the forms to the Texas Tobacco 21 Coalition to show statewide support for raising the age. If you are interested in using this kit with your youth group, visit txsaywhat.com /mini grant kits or contact staff at txsaywhat at txstate.edu for more information about requesting one.
Thank you, Kellen, for sharing those opportunities on how people can get involved, specifically with our Say What mini grant kits, but then also letting us know about what Texas youth specifically are doing in their communities regarding the education about Texas 21. So upcoming, we have 2 opportunities for you and your youth group to get involved. The first one is Advocacy Day, which is hosted by Texan Sandy Tall. Steve mentioned this a little earlier in the beginning of the webinar. They're hosting an all-day advocacy training, so In the morning, participants will hear from expert speakers in the field. Participants will craft messages on the issues of Texas 21 or tobacco prevention and control funding. And then in the afternoon, they'll get to visit with elected officials in their office to share their messages. So you'll get to practice, attendees will get to practice the polite advocacy pitch, similar to what Steve had presented on. And so Advocacy Day is Tuesday, February 19th. It's all day in Austin, and registration will be open until February 18th. And so if you have questions about that, you can contact Steve Ross, or you can contact myself, and we'll put you in connection with Steve. The next opportunity coming up is going to be for Texas Tobacco Free Kids Day. So it's an honor. I will be at the Capitol in honor of Texas Tobacco Free Kids Day, and Say What is collaborating with national partners to bring an advocacy rally to the Texas Capitol, just for education about the importance of increasing the age of Tobacco 21. And there are plenty of more details to come. As we nail down specifics, we will let you know. But in the meantime, if you do have any questions, please feel free to contact me at that email address listed on your screen. All right. And so at this time, we'd like to answer any questions that you have. So we'll just take a few moments. You can type those into the chat box, and we have plenty of time to answer questions. So please type away.
Kathleen?
Go ahead.
I was just going to mention while they're doing that, we have through Advocacy Day, youth from Say What and from YLC members, Youth Leadership Council members for us, and from other coalitions have gone through training, and they have had firsthand experience. We've used Youth Leadership Council members and Say What members to testify about powdered alcohol and about tobacco prevention and cessation funds, and they did a great job. It's a great opportunity to learn how to speak before legislators, and we really appreciate all the youth that have participated in the past.
Thank you, Steve, for sharing that information. So we do have two questions so far. The first question is about the link to the webinar. You will receive a follow-up email with an evaluation, and that evaluation will also have some materials and resources from this webinar that you can access. And then also there'll be a notification of when the webinar will be available to view, and that will be on our website. It will be housed on our website, www.txsaywhat.com, under the resources tab, and you'll be able to find it there. So our next question is, what is the difference between a lobbyist and an advocate? And this, I think, is a great question to ask. When we heard Kellen present his polite advocate speech, he had mentioned, I ask you to vote yes on a particular subject. And so that brings in the question of, is that lobbying or are we still advocating? And so, Steve, I'm going to pass this question off to you and ask that you please explain the difference between a lobbyist and an advocate.
It is simply complicated, or complicated simply. No, it really is rather simple. Tobacco 21, raising the age of tobacco use to 21. We at Texans Standing Tall are a statewide nonprofit. We cannot lobby. We do serve as an information resource to the legislature, and all of us here have testified several times in front of the legislature. And for instance, if it was about this Tobacco 21 law, I could go and speak on it, and I would simply testify about the benefits of having a law where a youth could not purchase or you could be sold tobacco products until the age of 21. And I could give the return on investment. That's essentially what I would be doing. If I took the day off from work and went as an individual citizen, I could then say, I really want to support House Bill 41140, whatever it is, or Senate bill. That's the difference. When you're an advocate, you are advocating for a solution to the problem, not a specific bill.
Great, thank you. So a lobbyist asks for specific action on a bill, while an advocate is there simply to educate, correct?
Correct.
Fantastic.
You did it much simpler. So you did the simple, I did the complicated.
That is okay. All answers are good. Okay, we'll just take a few more minutes to see if we get any more questions. While we wait, just a quick reminder that if you would like CEUs for this webinar, you can contact us. There should be information. If you're on a laptop, you'll scroll down on your screen and you can see an informational box. If you're on a larger screen, you should be able to see it, that information about requesting CEUs. And Steve, in case they'd like to contact you about Advocacy Day, could you let everybody know what your email address is?
I certainly will, and I will also add that we have memberships available, and if you are a member of Texan Standing Call, you get discounts on such things as Advocacy Day or our upcoming summit in April, which will be April 10th and 11th, and we'll have some very interesting tobacco-specific lecturers, and it would really be interesting. My email address is sross@texansstandingtall, all one word, .org.
Fantastic. Thank you, Steve. All right, so it looks like there aren't any more questions. Just a reminder, the recording of the webinar will be accessible through our Say What website about February 15th, but you'll receive notification in your email, so you can be on the lookout for that. Also, just another reminder that you'll receive a brief survey about today's webinar through the email address that was provided during registration. And so we'd like to thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and this concludes our webinar for today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.